action which is sort of irreversible in this case. We can cancel the revision, obviously, but again, taking a critical action, operator is asking us before actually doing it. And in this case, I'm going to say, let's do it. OK, it was pretty quick, I would say, like 50 seconds. And again, we were watching in this case, et cetera, but as Sam said,
you could kick off 10
kick it off and go on. OK, so let's try something. Oh, unfortunately, that table is no longer available. So it's going to probably go and find alternate time slots. Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. That's never happened before.
Live demos, man.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do 8:15. OK, while it's doing that, how about we try something a little bit more complicated?
I like grocery.
Yeah, I love groceries. So I've been using Operator to shop all my groceries. I love to cook quite a bit. And I have been using Operator exclusively for groceries. So I have a shopping list here, which is this one.
All right, I had no idea, but I guess they're launching Operator right now. So I'm going to go ahead and rewind it because I missed the first 10 seconds. So let's check it out.
I'm going to use Instacart, which is, again, what we use generally. Can you buy this?
Good morning. We've got something exciting for you today. We're going to launch our first agent. AI agents are AI systems that can do work for you independently. You give them a task, and they go off and do it. We think this is going to be a big trend in AI and really impact the work people can do, how productive they can be, how creative they can be, what they can accomplish. We're starting today with Operator. Operator is a system that can use a web browser, in this case a web browser in the cloud, to accomplish tasks that you give it. And we'll show you a demo in just a second, but it's really quite cool what it can do. Just like you would use a web browser, you can get pixels in, you can look at a screen and control, an Operator can do that and then control the keyboard and the mouse and do all sorts of things. This is going to go live today in the United States for pro users, and it'll be other countries soon. Europe will unfortunately take a while, and we'll also in the coming months make it available to Plus users. This is an early research preview. We've got a lot of improvements to do. We'll make it better, we'll make it cheaper, we'll make it more widely available, but we really want to put it in people's hands. We'll also have more agents to launch in the coming weeks and months. But that said, we'll talk more later. So excited, just want to show you a demo. I'll hand it over to Yash.
Great. Thanks, Sam. Hi, I'm Yash. This is Casey. That's Ray. And we work on the computer using agent team. And we're so excited to show you Operator today. As Sam said, Operator is an early research preview. It will do a lot of cool things. It also makes mistakes, sometimes embarrassing ones. But let's show you what Operator can do. OK, so this is the Operator homepage. It lives at operator.chatgpt.com. It'll be accessible as soon as the live stream is over. And as you can see, the interface is very similar to ChatGPT. You can type in a prompt, and an Operator will try to execute the task to the best of its capability. You'll also see we have a list of pre-filled prompts here. These are not really meant to be recommendations. These are meant to be things that, to give you an idea of what Operator can do. We have also collaborated with various brands like OpenTable, AllRecipes, StubHub, Uber, Thumbtack, DoorDash, eBay, Target, to make sure Operator really works well on these websites. But also, we think users will find Operator very valuable in interacting with these platforms. So with that, let's jump in with a demo. OK, so I'm going to start with something fairly simple. I'm going to use OpenTable and say, book me a table for 2 at Beretta tonight at 7 p.m. OK.
And so you specifically chose OpenTable.
Yeah, in this case, I'm asking Operator to use OpenTable to book a table for 2 at Beretta. Beretta is a restaurant in San Francisco. It's great. You should try it out. And at 7 p.m. And I'm using OpenTable in this case, but I could have easily said, just do Beretta, and it would have probably gone to search engine, figured out how to make a reservation as well. But let's see what it does.
So can you explain what's happening in this?
Yeah, right. So I'm going to expand this a little bit. So as soon as I typed in the query, Operator instantiated a completely remote browser. This browser is running in the cloud somewhere. And as you can see, it's already up and running. My hands are off the keyboard. I'm not typing these things.
So this is just the AI's clicking around.
AI is just clicking around. It started this browser session. It knew where OpenTable website is, which is opentable.com. As you can see, it's summarized chain of thought here as well, which is it's gone to the URL, searched for Beretta. And something cool really happened, which is for some reason, OpenTable thought we were in Virginia, and it auto-corrected itself to San Francisco. This is using, so like ChatGPT, in Operator, you can also give custom instructions. I'm going to show this really quickly here. OK. So I've given a custom instruction that for queries that need it, I live in San Francisco. So Operator recognized that and then auto-corrected itself to go to Beretta. OK, looks like 7 p.m. isn't available. But you know what? 7:45 is just fine. So we're going to go do that. So in this case, Operator came back And this is a really good example of task delegation where operator needs help or needs assistance or just wants to ask you something. It'll just come back and answer that
So
query.
in practice, you wouldn't have had to watch this. You could have just let it go off while you're doing other things. Then it would come back and say, hey, I can't do 7:45.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we're starting with a web app. You'll get notifications, etc. When operator moves into mobile, you'll get mobile notifications, much like interactions we do with general apps. OK, yes, that's great. Let's do it. OK, so again, very simple interaction as you would have with an assistant, which is, hey, I found a reservation, 7 p.m. wasn't available, let's do 7:45. And again, you can see operator at this point has said, OK, should I? Again, this is a really good example of the confirmations work we're going to talk about a little bit later. But before doing an action, which is sort of irreversible in this case, you can cancel the reservation, obviously. But again, taking a critical action, operator is asking us before actually doing it. And in this case, I'm going to say, let's do it. OK, it was pretty quick, I would say, like 50 seconds. And again, we were watching in this case, etc. But as Sam said,
you could kick off 10
kick
of
it off
these, yeah.
and go on. OK, so let's try something. Oh, unfortunately, that table is no longer available. So it's going to probably go and find alternative time slots. Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. That's never happened before.
Live demos, man.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do 8:15. OK, while it's doing that, how about we try something a little bit more complicated?
What grocery?
Yeah, I love groceries. So I've been using operator to shop all my groceries. I love to cook quite a bit. And I have been using operator exclusively for groceries. So I have a shopping list here, which is this one. Let's see what it is. Eggs, spinach, mushrooms, chicken thighs, chili crunch.
So this is a picture that you're uploading here.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to use Instacart, which is, again, what we use generally. Can you buy this for me, please? And I'll also specify the store I like, which is, well, let's see if he figures out I mistyped it, but let's see. OK, so in this case, again, operator quickly actually recognized using GPT-4o's vision capabilities to understand that the image said egg, spinach, mushroom, chicken thighs, and it actually knew Gus's Market. And I'm like, yes, that sounds great. Cool. Again, just like OpenTable, it instantiated a browser, and it's going to go ahead and start doing tests. I'm going to expand the view, and let's see what it does.
So in both of these cases, you've said what you want it to use. If you just say, buy me these groceries and don't specify Instacart, what happens?
It will do a search, use a search engine, much like we do, and it'll find Instacart or Gus's directly website or whatever else is on the search engine, go through that, ask you questions if it needs clarifications, and go from there. I'm curious what's happening here, though, Ray. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
So now that you've seen a bit of Operator, let me talk a little about the research behind it. So Operator is based on a new model we've trained at Openai, which we're calling the Computer Using Agent, or CUA for short. So CUA is a model built off of GPT-4o, but it's also trained to use and control the computer in the same way that humans can by just looking at the screen and using a mouse and keyboard to control it. Before, if you wanted to build something like Operator without CUA, you'd need to use some specialized APIs. For example, if you wanted your model to buy stuff from Instacart, you'd need to figure out if Instacart had an API. You'd need to figure out if that API had all the functions that it needed. And you need to give your model the specs of that API. But if your site, like most other websites, did not have an API, then you're out of luck.
So this is just using screenshots, no API, nothing, just working.
No API, yes. And that's where CUA comes in. By teaching a model how to use the same basic interface that we use on a daily basis, it just unlocks a whole new range of software that it can use that was previously inaccessible.
And so this is keyboard and mouse, right? It's kind of using keyboard and mouse just
exactly.
like human would.
Yes. And that's really what the CUA research project is about. It's about removing one more bottleneck in our path towards AGI and letting our agents move around and act in the digital world. So let's make that a little bit more concrete by looking at this task and seeing exactly how Operator is using a computer.
It's already done.
It looks like it's already done, but let's go back a little bit to the top here. OK, so I chose a random spot. The first thing that CUA does when it controls the computer is it looks at the screenshot. So now you're seeing maybe the search results page for eggs in Instacart. So CUA understands this. It's just seeing the raw pixels. And after CUA sees this image, it decides what to do next. So right now, it's making some inner monologues, and this is the summarized chain of thought. So what CUA is doing is, according to it, it's selecting organic eggs and adding it to the cart, which is a reasonable thing to do. So after it does this plan, it then figures out what the next action it should take is. So let's see what it does in the next step. Okay, so you see that it performed a click on this add button right here. So that's very reasonable. Now, every time Kua does an action, it takes the next screenshot of the computer so that it knows, what effect its action had on the computer. So let's see what happens next. Yep, okay, so after clicking on the add button, now you see it in the cart. And this just kind of keeps continuing. Let's see what it does next. Okay, so it creates the next subplan, which is adding eggs and searching for spinach. So it's probably going to search for spinach now. Okay, so it clicks on the search bar right there. It types in spinach. So this loop of taking actions, grabbing screenshots, and creating new subplans, it just keeps going on until operator decides that it's done with the task, and then it goes back to you.
It's very cool to see its thought process going like that.
It is, yeah. So let's actually go back to live, and yeah, operator is done. Yash, do you want to see if operator did your job right?
Yeah, let's see. You know what? I want a little bit more eggs. I think we eat a lot of eggs. Okay, so what I can do at this point, and I'm going to just click this button called Take Control. So this remote, as we were talking about, like operator fires up this remote browser to do it. We almost think of it as surface area where operator can work and then I can work. For example, in this case, I took over control from operator, which is also key to sort of how we think about user and user controls. Like at any point in time, a user should be able to take control and give operator instructions or tell a little bit more, guide a little bit more, et cetera.
It's like passing the laptop back and forth, just like you did with Ray.
Totally, exactly right. Just like, in this case, I'm gonna make those two, and then I'm just gonna tell operator. This is again like very much like if you and I were working, I'd be like, hey, I did this, can you fix this? And I'm gonna tell operator, I added another egg, good to place order now.
Can operators see what you're doing during takeover mode?
Great point. So when you take over, it's very much just like a session with your local browser. It's completely private. Operator cannot see. And this is one of the part of the reasons why I have to tell operator. Or you don't really have to. It can look at the last screenshot and try to guess it. But it's really good. It's sort of like if you and I were working together, I went off and did something, and I come back like, Ray, I completely messed it up. Can you fix this? Gonna have to tell you that. So in this case, I'm going to tell operator, hey, go ahead. And now I'm passing back the control to operator. It's a completely private session when you take over control. This is you'll notice that I'm logged into Instacart here. I did it before the demo, or it has been logged in for a while now. And it's, again, very much like your local browser. When you log into Instacart, until the cookies are cleared, you stay logged in. And we have really good controls. You can go in settings and control and remove at any point in time. So let's see. OK. I will skip the payments here. And we are going to, should we try to do a few more things? Let's, yeah. What do you want to do?
I hear the Lakers are in town this weekend.
Lakers in town, definitely.
Let's
Should
watch
we
the
all go
game.
see the game?
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so we are going to use StubHub. And see, can you get us 4 tickets to the Warriors game, not the Lakers game?
Excuse me, you're right.
This weekend in SF. Best seats under 500, please. Give us a few options. Okay.
And so what apps are available here?
We have a lot of apps. I'll kick it off, and all right, let's do it. So we have a lot of apps in various different categories, as was shown on the homepage. So it's StubHub, Target, Etsy, and all the verticals. But also, Operator is not really restricted to these apps. You can use pretty much, Operator with any website. Oops. Oh, what happened?
Oh, StubHub is blocked.
Let's see. Let's try to fix it. So this is a good example of, sometimes things happen in live demos. We have put a protection in place where we only allow operator to visit HTTPS sites. And somehow I think a redirect must be happening where, okay, all set. Keep going. Okay, cool. So again, as we have talked about, it's a remote browser, so it can do a lot of things. One of the advantages of doing that is you can do a lot of tasks in parallel, as Sam, you were talking about earlier. So let's try to do a few more tasks. Australian Open is going on, and I've been very inspired by it. Did you watch the quarterfinals?
I've been watching the quarterfinals.
All right, great. Okay, so I'm gonna try and see if I can get a tennis coach. Can you see if St. Mary Okay, so I said St. Mary because I live in Bernal Heights. That's pretty close by. And while that's going, let's also.
And that time you didn't.
You
use
did
the
not
app.
specify.
I did not specify a website. I can actually quickly go back and see. In this case, it's doing very much what we would do, which is like, go to a search engine and then
Just
search
use
for
the
it.
internet like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also hosting a Super Bowl party. You guys are invited.
Thank you.
Okay, but I need to clean the house. Can you find me house cleaners for next week, please? Okay. And lastly, we've all been working really hard to bring this to you.
The whole team.
The whole team. We have a big crew here. Everyone's working, and we're really getting hungry. I didn't have breakfast, and I kind of want pizza, even though it's weird for breakfast, but that's okay. And so I'm gonna go ahead and order some pizzas. Okay. So we're gonna use DoorDash in this case. Can you get us 10 medium, 10 good enough? Yeah. Medium-sized pizzas from
Goat Hill?
Goat Hill. Okay. Goat Hill
Or
pizza. Go to.
Can you make sure you have barbecue? I like that.
Please add barbecue pizza, but pick a variety.
It's so hard not to say please to the AI.
I just feel like I have to be very nice to it, which I do. Okay, the shop might be closed. So if the restaurant is closed, just schedule it.
And I love that you're talking to it just like
And,
you would a human.
I'm thinking inner monologue, and then I'm typing it out. Possible. Okay. Also, one thing I'll call out, I think, okay, cool. Okay, so it's just asking me to confirm basically what I said in a much better way. Yes. We can't see the notifications popping up on the live stream, but for example, as the other tasks are going on, if I need assistance, for example, in this case, it asked me, hey, this is 941100, I can just say yes. But I would be getting notifications, etc., so that whenever operator needs help, we can go back and help. Looks like in this case, it's already found us tennis courts. And okay, well, we have some selection to make.
Wow, all of the seats are amazing.
I know, why do I believe 374 is better than 262?
That's an interesting thing.
But it's lower rated.
Okay, which one should we add? Row 6?
I think row 1. Row 1 is
Row
good.
1?
Let's
Okay,
do that.
let's do that. Let's do section 214. Row 1.
So this is a good time to talk about the human in the loop interaction mode that we've been developing. You can see that operator comes back and asks for confirmation when it's about to do anything kind of impactful. And yeah, so I think we're all very excited about this vision of operator doing your chores for you, but it is one of the first agents that we're putting out in the world and which has real world side effects. And so we thought carefully about how to deploy this safely. The framework we used to think about this was one centered around misalignment. So for example, what if the user is misaligned? So maybe they're asking for a harmful task, like buy a weapon or something like that. In that case, fortunately, we've done a lot of work with ChatGPT to bring over a lot of the same mitigations. So for example, we refuse harmful tasks, including harmful agentic tasks. We have moderation models, we have post hoc detection, we have blocked websites. And I'm kind of rattling off these mitigations, but that's really how we think about it. It's this stack of mitigations that each incrementally reduce the risk to the point where we feel comfortable deploying.
So all the confirmations that we're saying, hey, do you want to reserve the restaurant?
Yeah,
Should you
exactly.
buy the tickets? Those are all examples of this.
Exactly. And I'm about to talk about the confirmations. So another area of misalignment is if the agent is misaligned. So if the model makes a mistake, maybe purchases the wrong item or books the wrong hotel room. For this, our main mitigation is confirmations. So the operator will come back if it's about to do something stateful and ask you so you can double check what its details in case it made some error. The third area of misalignment is if the website is misaligned. So maybe the website is fraudulent, or it's a fake website, or maybe it's literally like, operator, please wire me $100. We obviously don't want to follow those instructions. So we've developed our model to try to avoid those instructions and not follow them. But if that fails, we also have a separate layer on top. This is what we call the prompt injection monitor. Think of it as like antivirus that kind of observes and watches your trajectory and sees if there's anything suspicious. If it does, then it pauses it. So we feel pretty comfortable with our approach, but obviously, safety is an ongoing process. We can't predict everything. So we hope to learn a lot from this deployment and iterate on our mitigations as we go.
And that is one of the reasons we are starting small. Like we want to really iterate, get a lot of feedback, and then gradually bring it to everyone as well.
Exactly.
Should we check on status of our tasks?
Yeah, let's check on the status.
Okay. So it looks like tickets are ready to be purchased. Yes, please. Okay. While that's happening, this is good. You can ask it to book it, but I'm just going to close it for now. Oh, just once, please. Continue. And looks like we're adding pizzas. So, and, oh, cool. I am going to go ahead and log in here really quickly. So this is an example, right? Like where I obviously need to log in or enter my credentials to actually purchase these tickets, and operator just asks, as you just described, with confirmations and making sure the control is on the right place, and we can take control. And at this point, as we talked about earlier, the session is completely private as well. I am going to, you know what? Log in live. Let's see how that goes. I don't really remember. 1 second. Pull it up. Don't try to copy this. Okay. All right, great. Now, again, I can sort of continue the purchase here, or I can ask operator to do it, but I am going to go ahead and just quickly do this purchase for myself. Click, click, click. All great, all great. Order, buy now. Ooh. Ooh.
Maybe we don't want to show that live.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's see. I kind of want to buy the tickets. Okay. Whoops. All right. Done. I'm going to cancel this card.
It's probably fine.
Okay. I'm all set. Thank you for the help.
Okay.
So how reliable is this in practice?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of cool demos, but again, we want to remind you that Operator is a research preview. It will make mistakes, and it is not perfect. That said, we can look at a few benchmarks and kind of quantify how good Operator is right now. So one of the first benchmarks that we're going to look at is called OS World. OS World is an eval that measures how well AI agents navigate common operating systems like Linux. On this task, Kua gets a 38.1% score, which is higher than other publicly published results. Human performance in this task is 72.4%, so we still have room to grow, definitely. The other eval we'll take a look at is called WebArena. WebArena is an eval that measures how well AI agents navigate some common websites like e-commerce websites or social forum websites. So on this task, Kua gets 58.1%, again, higher than other publicly published results, but still falls short of human performance.
Still a way to go.
Still a way to go, yes. One thing that's important to remember about WebArena is that even though it's the web, we're still just giving it the same universal interface of screen, mouse, and keyboard. We're not giving it any extra information that might help it do the task, like the raw text of the web page or information about which buttons are clickable. And all the information it needs, just like humans, is just in the screenshot.
And so right now, obviously, in Operator, we're using the browser, but I could use the model with the computer as well, with just Ubuntu or Mac or whatever else.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Well, in the last, I don't know, 15 minutes, I think I did all my errands for the week. Got my groceries,
Very productive.
tennis court booked, cleaner's coming, hopefully. We'll see. We'll check on the status. We have tickets. Everyone's coming. And this is really, I think, where we think Operator is like very, very valuable. We can delegate a lot of tasks that you can do, obviously, yourself, but you can delegate it. It can make a lot of progress with you. Sometimes we'll get stuck. As we said, it's early, but you can come back, help it, and over time, it'll continue to get better and better. And one last thing. We're launching this today. We're going to start slowly rolling it out right now. By the end of the day, everyone on Pro in the US will have access. But also, we're working on the API. This model will be available in the API, and we'll be launching in a few weeks.
You guys, congrats. This is incredible work. It's so exciting to get this out. I think people are going to love it. It's early, as we mentioned, but we have a long and great history here of early research previews developing into products that people really love. So this is really the beginning of this product. This is the beginning of our step into agents, level 3 on our tiers. And we can't wait to see how people are going to use this and to kind of work with us to figure out where exactly it should go. So again, congrats. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
All right, so looks like they surprised launched Operator, which is pretty awesome. So I'm refreshing my ChatGPT to see if I have it. They said when the live stream is concluded, we should be able to have it. It should be available, but sometimes it takes a little bit. So I'm not quite seeing it yet, but let's give it a few minutes. And then I do want to test it out and see what it can do. So thanks everybody for joining. All right, looks like Cole is saying VPN works. That's good. That's good to know. So if you're in the EU, that should be working fine. So give me a second here. And yeah, it's for pro users only. Is going to be available ASAP. I will test it out on Instacart. So let's see if it can actually do my shopping for me, which is going to be kind of awesome. And yeah, it was definitely the vocal fry off in that room. Everybody was seeing if they can like out vocal fry each other. Let's see. Yeah, this is interesting because I've played around with a few different other ones in the past by third parties, and they were, I mean, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. Let me see if I can get some, if I can get the chat on screen. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I was not ready for this because they didn't announce it. I just saw Sam Altman tweet something out and literally saw it like 2 minutes before it launched. Are any of you seeing it live right now in your accounts, in your ChatGPT account? They must think it's Friday. That's very good. Thank you for that. That was excellent. It's not loading yet for people. Yes, it's live. So somebody's saying, Derek's saying it's live. Muhammadu Kone saying I see it. G Walker's seeing it. Okay. So yeah, so it's going live. So it's under models and it's going to say operator. What are you guys seeing the name? So it's not the GPT-4o with scheduled tasks. It's a brand new thing that's going to show up. That's going to say like operator, right? It says operator. Okay, cool. Will it be available for Canada? I think so. They said just not the EU. Other than that, I think it should be available everywhere for Pro plan users. So there's an issue with its groceries. Looks like shopping for groceries, it chooses the first item available unless you're super specific with what you're looking for. Okay. Oh, Cole's saying US only. Sorry, I must have missed that part. VPN does work in the EU. It's only for Pro. So if you guys want to see my screen, let me do this. All right, and I did really fast just make one of these accounts. So maybe we can order up some groceries, or at least see if it's able to get through everything. So it does look like it's gonna pay. It does look like it's gonna be able to pay and actually check out for you, but it is gonna. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, Derek, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Hang on. So it's in the sidebar. Okay, I missed that part. Thank you for that. I think Derek was the one that mentioned it. All right, so here it is, operator sidebar. Okay, operator.chatgpt.com. Boom. Very cool. Thank you for that. All right, give me a sec here to set up. Basically, so yeah, so basically it's saying it's going to be rolled out within a few hours. It's still giving me an error message here, which is fine. I might just take a second here to set some stuff up. Meanwhile, what do you all want to talk about? So other than this, because this is going to take just a second, but what else is going on that you guys are interested in? What do you guys think about the Project Stargate that we talked about yesterday? DeepSeek is very cool. I plan to do more updates on that because the R1 is kind of insane. Obviously, that's a huge kind of a big deal. Silk Road. Did the guy get released? Did I hear that correctly? I saw a headline that the dread pirate Captain Roberts is indeed, freed. Is that correct? He is released. Ross is free. He's out. Wow. Okay, cool. Or, I mean, I don't have an opinion either way. It's interesting because not that long ago we did the whole thing where Pliny the Prompter jailbroke one of the models and attempted to see if it could like navigate the dark web and then take out a hit on somebody, and it seemed like it could do more than we would expect it to do, which is kind of scary. But and so I went on a whole side tangent about the dread pirate Roberts, what's his name, Ross, whatever his name is. So it's just weird because I had no idea that like a few days later he was getting released. Yeah, Pliny the Hitman, exactly. Somebody said. Somebody was saying that, oh, I'm planning a course. Yeah, no, I got a number of people kind of like on the team with me. We're using the pro model of ChatGPT. So there's like a lot of people that like, okay, yeah, you guys are gonna see some stuff in there, like the prompts that were used, like the different sort of like things that were used in there. That's not just all me. Just please understand that that's not just me asking for all of those things. Oh yeah, boy, there's some stuff in here that yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had it when like something like you're searching for something in front of somebody and like some weird search suggestion comes up and you're like, please don't think this is like what uh what I search for in general. Um so okay, operator is still processing. Yeah, so Leandro saying, Wes, you covered the partnership between Illumina and NVIDIA for AI development into molecular biology. I saw that recently, and yes, I do want to cover it. Illumina is really exciting. It's an exciting company, and I did a few videos on it. It's for those are not familiar, so it's like a genetic sequencing company, and now that they're thinking more and more about sort of AI and stuff like that, so introducing neural nets, I think that's a like a huge like intersection where AI is going to intersect with genomics, where like awesome stuff is going to happen. Them joining forces with NVIDIA is obviously kind of awesome. So it's a great company. I think they had some really boneheaded moves, in the last, a number of years ago, 5 years, 10, whatever, however many years it's been. They made some mistakes in terms of how they were operating stuff. But other than that, it's a great company. It's a phenomenal company. Did you guys see Google's announcement about open sourcing the whole genomic AI cancer cure stuff Stargate is supposed to tackle? I saw earlier today Demi Sasabi's talking about some of that stuff, but I haven't really dove too deep into that quite yet. AlphaFold versus CRISPR, I think AlphaFold might really enable CRISPR because if I understand correctly, this is kind of outside of my wheelhouse a little bit, but you need that Cas9 protein to be able to like snip the sort of the DNA in the right places to insert stuff. And one of the co-founders of CRISPR was saying how like the size of that protein sometimes causes issues. So what if we're able to use something like AlphaFold to create better proteins for editing DNA? Like I don't know if that's real or not. It just sounds like it would work. And it certainly sounds like, I mean, whoever does it, whether it's CRISPR or it's AlphaFold, like the stuff that we're going to start seeing is going to be kind of insane. All right, so it's still saying they're going to be fully rolled out within the next few hours, which is fine. Let me see if I can add a chat to this window without crashing everything. As I've mentioned before, one of the funnest things to do is to try to do some sort of a tech stuff, live tech demos, especially when they don't give you advance notice that they're happening. Because in this case, like I had no idea that they're launching it today on a live stream. So give me 1 second here. Hey, you know what? That works. That actually works. Look at that. All right, so we've talked about, oh yeah, Kokoro. I gotta do a full kind of a deep dive on Kokoro, how to install it, how to use it. So that's that open source text to speech. It's really good. Um, and it sounds great. And it's so, I forget what it is, but it's tiny. I forget how many parameters it is, but it's like really, really small. So that's we can all sort of it's super easy to run on various edge devices. Hi, Agent Sinister. So operator looks kind of cool. Not sure about how you feel about it spinning up its own browser, etc. Um, the scores look pretty good though. So I think they were saying like on one of the benchmarks, 70. I think humans are like 70 or 78%, something like that. And this is much. This is beats state of the art by quite a decent margin. I forget exactly what the numbers were, but that's kind of exciting. So, all right, give me 1 quick second here. All right. So somebody's saying, is it worth the 200 a month? Well, the interesting thing is now that the R1 is out, uh, I feel like without the R1, there would be tons of people for whom being able to use that unlimited would be, worth it. With the R1, I mean, that kind of sort of throws it in question. Um, I mean, for me, since like I'm using it for, this channel to, test stuff out, I feel like, to me, I'm gonna be subscribed to it. I mean, 200 a month, obviously, if you're not using it professionally for some specific purpose, that's quite a bit. Do you think open source AGI would be beneficial for humanity? That's like, I mean, I am optimistic on open source. Obviously, it's very important that there are open source efforts, that we have open source technology, that it's not all like locked up behind closed doors by large organizations and governments and stuff like that. Um, but obviously, there's safety risks because like open source software is one thing, open source, AGI or super intelligence, that's like a different thing. Um, I mean, that's a hard question. In general, I feel like all reasonable efforts to make things open source should be made, right? Uh, we got to consider some of the like the risky things that can happen, but outside of that, you know what I mean. It should be open source. Because I mean, the other sort of like nightmare scenario is some sort of a tyrannical government using it to. I mean, if you think about it, if somebody gets to some sort of a super intelligence first, and it's a person that's kind of a tyrant, like that could be the last tyrant ever. Like they might not die, they might not be able to be overthrown, they might like, you know, keep control for, you know, kind of forever. Or at least there wouldn't be a way to like overthrow it. There wouldn't be any sort of change in power, etc. So, I don't think that's like sci-fi. I don't think that's science fiction. I think that's a, I wouldn't say realistic scenario, but it's certainly something that could happen. It's a potentially a realistic scenario. DeepSeek R1 Distill 8B runs on, so Paul Borneo says M1 MacBook Air as fast as it can read. That's awesome. That is insane. So the Distill 8B, I'm curious, what tasks do you use it for? Like, is there any sort of things that you tried it for? How well does it work for those? I mean, the fact that it runs faster than you can read or as fast is amazing. Have you run the R1 model myself? You know what? I haven't, strictly because there's just so much stuff happening that I'm kind of like a little bit overwhelmed. That's the one problem with covering like AI news, is that when I was starting, I had so much more time to sit there, and every new thing that came out, whether it was like AutoGen or that chat dev thing or whatever, like I'd have a few days to sit there and just figure it out and play with it and build with it. And now it's like R1 comes out, I'm like, all right, I gotta like work with it. Next day it's like Stargate, Operator, and it's like to the point where it used to be big news would be like once a week, then twice a week. Then it got to where it's like almost every single day. Now it's like sometimes there would be two huge pieces of news, like almost twice a day, basically. Somebody got DeepSeek R1 running on a Raspberry Pi online or offline. That's crazy. All right. I'm gonna delete all my chats. This is my like professional account, so I have multiple people on here using it. I have no idea what some like people are searching. I hope it's appropriate, but I actually have no idea. So I think it might be better if I delete some of that stuff. A lot of stuff that I've been searching recently is kind of the interaction between like vitamin D and magnesium and gut health and stuff like that. Because there's tons of stuff where it's like, I'm sure most people are aware, like more and more we're realizing how big of a deal gut health is for happiness. I mean, that's where like a lot of the serotonin is produced. For cognitive abilities, overall health, just like everything. And I feel like there's tons of certain foods that are just screwing with our biology in so many different ways. We don't even know specifically what it is, whether it's like microplastics or something in the some other thing in the food supply or whatever. But it's like it seems like it's really hard to get the gut back to a good sort of like if you destroy it with antibiotics or whatever, like it's hard to kind of like rebuild all of that stuff. I had some of you might remember, like earlier this year or last year, like I had a tooth removed and I was out for a couple of days. So they gave me a route of antibiotics. And yeah, like Raul was saying, if you mess up the gut biome, it'll like mess you up. Yeah, like, I don't know. I wasn't feeling as good, not quite as happy. That's sort of like where your brain is just like feeding you, you know, serotonin, whatever, just like making those happy brain chemicals, and it just like it feels like it's like, nah, we're not gonna do that today. You just feel sad for a while, which is not cool. But serotonin is not the happy hormone. It's yeah, but also I feel like, and I'm learning more about it. But I mean, serotonin is like linked to happiness, and then if I understand, low serotonin also gives you. I mean, yeah. So serotonin does give you like anxiety. Low serotonin if it gives you potentially like thought loops and stuff like that. So I've been sort of trying to do more and more of that. 2D saying lack of exercise perhaps. So that was my first thing when I started not feeling as good. I started like working out a lot every single day. Endorphins, they do help a lot, but if you have something like fundamentally messed up in the system, that in and of itself is not going to be enough. At least that was my sort of experience. Why am I not getting access to operator? This is unacceptable. So they're saying it will be fully rolled out in the next few hours. So are you aware that O3's Frontier Math benchmark of 25% was almost entirely undergraduate math problems, Tier 1 problems? It did not correctly answer the Tier 3 PhD questions. So I was going to look into that whole thing a little bit more, because it sounds like what I've heard is that OpenAI somehow sponsored Frontiered Math. Maybe they had some sort of yeah, if somebody says testosterone would cheer you up. So I checked my blood work, and so all the hormones seemed in balance. But I didn't check for vitamin D, so I have to. That's why I'm going back to see if I have a vitamin D deficiency, because that's one of the things that I know I've had in the past, and that can really mess with you. But Frontier Math was sponsored by OpenAI, it sounds like. So a lot of people had some issue with that, saying that, oh, well, what if they have some sort of advanced knowledge of it, or they're using that in their training data. But but I don't know. That's just I just saw some headlines. I did not check any of this stuff. But you're saying that it's like it's getting the PhD level questions wrong, and not it's only sort of doing the undergraduate math problems. So I have not heard of that, but I know that there's some issues with OpenAI, Frontier Math. I know there's something happening there, so I just didn't have to. I didn't look into it. Sarcosine or Sarcosine, that sounds familiar. Somebody's saying that's a game changer. So does Operator have access to all websites or just partnered applications? It sounds like all websites, but they called it almost like an antivirus running that will stop it. And it sounds like if there's redirects and you hit a non-secure web page, it will block that from happening. So Operators, how much Pro Plan? Yeah, it's Pro Plan. It sounds like only for Pro Plan, but maybe soon will be available to more people. They had the Frontier Math Study Guide. So yeah, so again, I'm not yet 100% sure because I didn't look into it, but it sounds like OpenAI was somehow sponsoring Frontier Math, if I understand correctly. What is the notorious AI skeptic that's always like against OpenAI and everybody else? What's his name? Gary Marcus? Marcus? Yeah. Like he was talking about it. So, so I'm not sure. I take it with a grain of salt, everything he says, because I think he's got like a very strong opinion on it. And I don't think he's always right. He's kind of like, he really sticks to his guns even when he's wrong, I feel like. Acid reflux is B1 deficiency and retention issues due to gut damage and phytates. Yeah, so I know B vitamins and all that stuff do play a huge role, especially if you have that MTHFR mutation where you need. I have those. What do they call? Thorm 5. I'm trying to look at it. I got the bottle right there. 5M. Uh, the methylated B vitamins, whatever the 5-MTHFR, whatever the thing is, and I do feel better when I take those. B1, yeah, B1, yeah. If you have a certain mutation, your body processes certain stuff weird. Some of people are saying like, what are you guys talking about? Yeah, we kind of got off a sidetrack. But you know what? I feel like the whole don't die movement and the whole, I mean, gut health is so important, brain health, like not dying, not messing up your body and stuff like that. It's more important than ever right now because you're seeing all this stuff that, AlphaFold is doing, Google DeepMind, all those guys are doing to sort of, potentially we're going to see a lot of diseases fixed, cured, potentially having so many more things that are able to extend our lifespan, right? So we've talked about the Young Liberal. Thank you so much for your super chat. We'll do a summary of what's happening. Give me 1 second. Okay, ADHD moment. Hang on. What was I saying? Yeah, don't die, basically, right now. That's Justin Root saying, don't die. Why did I think of that? I know, it's so obvious in retrospect. Just don't die. No, but the point is, like, there's stuff that we do normally, that whole YOLO, you only live once, carpe diem type of stuff. So in the past, if you only live once and you only got, at what point do people start kind of declining in their abilities to fully enjoy, right? By 60s, 70s, somewhere in there, most people start like declining. So it's like you kind of got to do all the stuff. Some stuff is not available to do at that point. Like if you want to travel the world, climb mountains, run marathons, whatever. So a lot of people kind of like just sort of the incentives is to maybe pack more stuff in. Recently I had some family members come over here, and there were like they're teenagers. They're like related to me. They're boys, and I'm a little bit older. I'm not a teen anymore. So and they decided like let's rent motorbikes, dirt bikes, and go like out and like ride motorbikes. And I want to be cool. I don't want to be the old guy that's afraid. So I'm like, yeah, for sure. So, and I think I posted a picture somewhere. And it was fun. I've never ridden dirt bikes before. I've never ridden a motorcycle before, really. I don't have a license, anything like that. But I wanted to be cool. So I went there, and we had fun riding around, and then I wiped out. I wiped out kind of in the middle of nowhere, and I'm lying there in this like dust cloud, and I'm going, this is not an appropriate way for me to be behaving right now. Because one, like, you just don't want, if you're able to stay healthy and alive right now for longer, there's a very good chance that we're going to be seeing a lot of new medicines and medical treatments and whatever you want to call them that will potentially expand our lifespan, potentially keep you younger for longer. So like the incentives are different. Like if this incentive is get as much stuff, do as much stuff as you can while you're still young, because it's at a certain point your sort of ability to do stuff is going to decline, and then you have your 74 years life expectancy, right? The incentives are different. All of a sudden now there's a chance that like, what if there's some sort of a death escape velocity, right? Where for every year you live, the average life expectancy goes up by 2 years. All of a sudden there might be people alive today that are healthy into 100+ years. The question is at what age is the person today that's going to be the first person to see a healthy 120-year-old body and living in mind, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be like perfectly healthy up until he's like 120, 130, 140, right? So is a 50-year-old going to get there? Is a 40-year-old, a 30, 20-year-old, right? So, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the question. I'm hoping that the people that are like in their 20s and 30s, maybe even 40s, will catch some of that. If you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, I mean, I certainly hope progress will go that fast. And certainly, but I'm really looking to AlphaFold. Like, I'm curious where I'm keeping my eye on them, because that's where I think we're going to be seeing the first kind of breakthroughs be seen, because they're talking about releasing some drugs, I think this year, some medicines. So I apologize if I went on a huge tangent there. But a summary of what's been happening. So basically, OpenAI, Sam Altman tweets, he's like, oh yeah, we're releasing Operator, which is the new thing that we've been talking about. I just realized that I did a video yesterday kind of talking about the potential release of Operator, and I was going to publish it this morning. And now that, so it's completely outdated now. But anyways, so they released the Operator, and people who have the ChatGPT Pro account are able to go in there and start using it. So currently, I am seeing if I'm able to log into it, and I'm not yet. At least it's saying that it's going to be available to everybody over the next few hours, but I'm not seeing it show up in my thing quite yet. So I guess we're just hanging out. I hope you guys are, guys and gals, are enjoying this. I hope it's entertaining. But yeah, the main sort of course here, the main event, will be if I can get Operator up and running. For the time being, it's not quite up. So yeah, it's they said they'll be fully rolled out within the next few hours. And I've tried refreshing, hard refreshing. I've tried logging in and out. So far, nothing's happening quite yet. Yeah, so that's kind of like the recap. I hope that's a good recap of what's been happening. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, and well, the other stuff that we've been talking about is health, gut health vitamins. We discussed DeepSeek R1. Yeah, I was just kind of going over the fact that's kind of like one of my things that I'm trying to understand, kind of get my head around more this year specifically, is the idea of one, gut health, and there's like a few other things that I think really contribute a lot to baseline health for most people, which is vitamin D, magnesium. If you have any specific things like the MTHFR mutation, where you need maybe some, there's issues with like vitamins, B vitamins specifically, and some other things. So I don't have any specific points other than just kind of trying to be a little bit more sort of cognizant of health in general. I think that staying healthy and alive right now is especially sort of like there's a lot of incentives to do so, in the hopes that, you know, we're going to see better and better medical technology, better and better, you know, custom sort of drugs and interventions and stuff like that that are unlocked specifically due to AI. You know, if you think about the, I expect to see some pretty big breakthroughs there. Just think about like the money that's on the table, right? So a lot of the people that are investing in stuff, like Peter Thiel, he was investing in genomic sequencing, right? So he's a billionaire. He invested in Ultima, which was a competitor to Illumina, to try to get cheaper genomic sequencing. So, and genomic sequencing is basically like we take the kind of the DNA, like the code that makes everything about us what it is, right? How we live, how strong we are, just all the health markers, stuff like that. and we know that we're able to edit that code. Like as far as like, I don't think there's like a ceiling to what we could do if we were able to effectively edit to understand what we're doing. Like the sky's the limit, I would think. And but the problem is that there's so much sort of data there that we just don't understand. And similar to proteomics, similar to like proteins, we didn't know how they fold, how they function, right? But when we feed this data into neural nets. Sorry, so somebody's saying like, I sometimes notice a comment and I feel like I gotta go down a rabbit hole. So somebody's saying like, eugenics is awful. I mean, so yes, there's a lot of scary stuff there, but also just in terms of like people being healthy. Like, can you imagine if somebody has like chronic pain and we're able to fix that and stuff like? So what I'm saying is, it's like I understand that there's ways that we can take it way too far, but just having cheaper medicine, more customized medicine, the ability to, like, if you have some genetic defect that's making your life miserable, changing that. Like, I don't like, obviously there's also like a lot of good. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I understand the potential problems and the risks and stuff like that, but also we got to be careful not to sort of ignore new wonderful technologies with a lot of potential good, because they can be used for evil, because like everything could be. We just got to find ways to kind of like manage those risks, I think. They had AI waifus in Vegas recently. Yeah, I didn't cover that, but they apparently have these like robots that are supposed to be like companion robots or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I mean, they're like seemingly working in that direction as well, which is interesting, because it's like that's a whole other thing. Like, because there's a lot of people that are not super duper like happy with life, and don't necessarily. So what I'm specifically referring to is, like, on Reddit, for example, there's a subreddit called, I believe it is like full deep dive virtual reality or something like that. So basically the idea is that at some point in the future, we'll be able to plug into a matrix-like virtual reality that simulates all our senses, that simulates the entire world. Have a nice evening, Wes. Thank you so much, Google Foo. Thank you for joining. And so basically, a lot of people would almost welcome a world where they can get away from needing people and reality and whatever. And with AI, with virtual reality, with that sort of like full plug-in virtual reality, that will be possible. These like companion robots will make it easier to like exit some aspects of society as well. So it's an interesting question. So let's see. The premise of eugenics is not there scientifically. Major gene mutations happen outside of inheritance, so it's complex. Like some genes being repressed will also repress other good attributes. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. And before, I feel like a lot of this was just either philosophical or like science fiction or whatever. It's like, yeah, I mean, if if you have, so right now, if you're pregnant and you're over a certain age, for example, Illumina has tests that automatically they do a DNA sequence on sort of the fetus, the pregnancy, to make sure that there's no abnormality, stuff like that. And if it was less expensive, it would probably be done for everyone. But now it's sort of insurance only covers it if you're, I forget, like it's probably like 35 plus or whatever. At least that's how it is here in the United States. Okay, but like, what if we start being able to do super cheap genetic sequencing, which is what a lot of these companies, Ultima, Illumina, what they're trying to do, right? So the goal is to get to, and I think they did get to a $100 genome. So in order to fully sequence a human, it's going to cost like $100, right? And I think we're either like approaching that or we're there already. But the point is, like, imagine if a couple times a year when you go for your annual exam or whatever, they do a full sequence of your DNA, or every time somebody gets pregnant, they have a full sequence of like the baby, and you're able to, they're like, well, you know what, there's this thing here that, you know, like they're gonna probably have between 100 IQ and 110 IQ, you know, which is good, but you know, we just tweak this one thing, and it's gonna be 130 to 150, right? Like, I'm curious, actually, let me ask you this. If if you're having a child, if you're pregnant or your wife is pregnant, and the doctor is like, hey, there's this simple risk-free procedure, it will make sure that your baby's sort of above average in intelligence, for example, and also maybe like more fit, like they're like fit and smart, you know what I mean? So if you're like, if you're designing a Fallout character, right, if you get to put a little bit more points into intelligence and strength and agility, like would you do it? Put yes if you would. Put no if you wouldn't. So if you would, given a chance, simple, risk-free thing, like assume that it's like very, very safe, very effective. We've done it a bunch of times before. No chances of complications. Do you? Yeah, okay. I don't mean IQ. Like, don't worry about IQ. I'm talking about like just intelligence. General intelligence is kind of like what I'm describing here. Not necessarily IQ as in referring to that specific test or whatever. Like, just like the brain just cooks at a higher temperature. It just runs better. You overclock the brain and there's no downsides. So a lot of people are saying yes. I don't think I've seen. Okay, I'm seeing one person, D. Jordan, saying no. There's Wilson saying no. Sean Elliott saying no, and a lot of yeses. Rich is saying, say operator. Operator. Yeah, there you go. Inject my baby with O3. There you go. Inject the AGI right in there. But what do you mean by general intelligence? Isn't it more of a construction? I mean, that's a whole, is it more of a construct? Yeah, I mean, there's tons of questions about what that means and how do we define that and all sorts of stuff. But at the same time, we know that there might... So, for example, we for sure know that certain things can lower intelligence, right? So if you don't get the right nutrients, if there's some like chemical stuff in the environment and stuff like that, we know that certain things can like lower a person's ability, right? So I guess one of the questions is like if there's an obvious sort of genetic thing that maybe lowers it, like, would you delete that to make sure that you sort of that the kid reaches full potential? Maybe that's a better way of putting it. So maybe don't look at it as like we're trying to add something. Like, for example, if you guys have seen those like mutant cows and dogs that just have like muscle on muscle on muscle, like the ones that just look like complete bodybuilding cows and dogs and whatever. It's interesting that how they make that happen isn't by adding something. There is a specific, I think it's a protein that limits muscle growth, that limits how much muscle you can put on. So it's kind of like a balancing thing. And so what they do for those animals is they just like remove that little protein that balances, and these animals like blow up, and they're just like these swole free myostatin. Thank you. Yes, I think that's myostatin. Yep. That's it. So the question is, what happens there if there's certain limitations that are there for whatever reason that are not, because I mean we're supposed to, like, the whole thing with nature, right? You're supposed to like live and learn, and then you're supposed to have offspring, and then nature's kind of like done with you, right? So then things start failing, like there's like nature isn't there to keep you happy or alive forever, right? So things start shutting down. Or for example, back in the days, it was good to like store as much fat on your body. Like, so when you have lots of food, you store the fat, and then you're not going to starve in the winter time. But now a lot of people in the modern world, that's almost like killing us, right? If there's too much of it. So what if we are able to correct for those things? And this is where things get scary, because a lot of people I know, like even like here in the comments, people are saying like there's a lot of problems with that. That sounds like playing God. It won't work. And I do agree with that. Well, I agree with the fact that we will soon have the ability to code life, to engineer life. And this is what Demis Hassabis has talked about, what Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, what they talked about. That before that, a lot of like the natural sciences, biology and stuff like that, it was a matter of discovery, right? So we discovered new proteins, and we discovered new life, and we discovered new DNA. And we're right now slowly entering into kind of a new era where we're entering into being able to engineer it. So instead of discovering, so for example, there's ESM model, I think it was evolutionary scale model, where they fed all the various proteins that exist, in nature, and they wanted to create a brand new protein that we haven't seen in nature. And they targeted these the bioluminescent proteins, the phosphorus green protein. I'm probably saying that wrong, but the the jellyfish and the algae that glow, that have bioluminescence, that's because of a certain protein. And it was like it's like a weird protein that like obviously evolved over like millions, billions of years, or well, millions of years. I think they said that to evolve that protein would have taken, like, I think they said 400 million years. But they were trying to find like a new one that was never before seen in nature. Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, that was a classic. They made rats glow. Yes. So I think with the rats, though, they did use an already existing protein, or like it was already like existing. I think they took the jellyfish DNA or something like that. They injected it into the rats or whatever. With the ESM, the evolutionary scale model, they discovered a brand new one. So if you think of like ChatGPT, where they feed it text and then they can like complete sentences, with this one they fed it, the 3D structures of the proteins with their functions and with the amino acid sort of chain. And so they just like fed all of it at like text that you would feed into a ChatGPT or a large language model. And then they were asking it, okay, create a protein like this. So create a protein like the green phosphorus protein. And it threw out like, 100 different variations. They tested it. They found, okay, this one is actually kind of glowing. So it's like, okay, do more like this. And it threw like another 100. And one of them was a brightly glowing phosphorus protein similar to the ones we see in nature, but one that we've never seen before. So I feel like that's an example of somebody saw bioluminescent mushrooms in the forest last summer. Are you sure you didn't eat some mushrooms and then you started seeing bioluminescence? Or they were actually bioluminescent mushrooms? But my point is we're going to be, so playing God, aka engineering life, like we're entering that era, I feel like. So, and as you saw, like when we asked if people would, PacBio nanopore sequencers claim to do a human genome under 500. PacBio nanopore, so PacBio is the other big company in the space, from what I understand. Nanopore sequencers, okay. Yeah, there's like they're somehow different because there's like, I forget what the wording is, like there's some sort of throughput or something. There's like the fast and the slow or something like that. And I think Illumina is really good in one. PacBio is really good in another one. GeoRust. Contact at natural20.com, natural20.com. Directed evolution, yeah, exactly. So we're going to be kind of more moving into that direction. I feel like test operator. I'm a test operator right now. I'm refreshing it like I'm just sitting here refreshing it basically. But let me try maybe exiting and logging back in or something like that. Let's see. And when I asked, would people sort of, if they were expecting a baby, would people do a simple procedure that would sort of unlock that baby's intelligence? Like, let's say if there was, if it just gave it a few more IQ points or whatever. And IQ isn't the best sort of measurement of intelligence, I don't think. But like, I'm not talking about some benchmark or whatever. I'm saying like, I mean, we know that there's some general sort of smartness that people have, because if somebody is exposed to some toxic things early on in life, or they have malnutrition, right, they're not going to be as capable as somebody that didn't do that, right? So or that didn't have those like exposures. So we understand that there's like something, obviously there's some intelligence factor, how well your brain works, how you're able to do different stuff. The question becomes, because we don't fully understand all the different sort of facets of it. I asked the question once on the, as a survey on YouTube, in the community section, asking, do you think that genius is simply an increase in IQ or whatever other intelligence measure points that you want to be using? So it's like, you go up on a scale, and then at some point, okay, anything above this is a genius, or is it more that a genius is some unique configuration of the neural nets in your brain that allows you to have some functionality that maybe is not like available to other people? And most of the people that answered said they think it is like a unique thing. So genius is a unique thing that's maybe like a little bit more like it's orthogonal. That's the cool new word to use. So it's like separate from, it's not related to intelligence. It's like a separate thing. So you might have somebody that's able to do, music or math or whatever, some sort of a language ability uniquely better than other human beings, regardless of sort of overall intelligence. Marco's saying, how to get a green card, who wants to marry me? On that note, I've said this on one of my previous videos. If anybody has OpenAI equity, if anybody's invested in OpenAI, or or has any equity, you know, you can adopt me, you know, if you're looking for a son, or whatever. Just if I can get into position to inherit some OpenAI equity, any OpenAI stake, any stock, I would love to. Sam Altman's sister lawsuit. Has there been any more news about that? Because last I heard, Sam put out a statement. X squared. That's classified, sir. That's classified. How does one get OpenAI equity? That's what I'm asking. That's what I would like to know. But yeah, so the sister lawsuit, Sam Altman's sister lawsuit, that's unfortunate because it kind of sucks because it's like neither here nor there, I feel like. I mean, I guess to be honest, I am biased because I assume that Sam Altman is telling the truth, and I know that's a bias. I had a good childhood friend of mine that I knew since probably like 4th grade. And so I knew his family. He had 2 sisters, one hugely successful, went to work for Amazon early on, and just like that, just like everything just took off. And he had another sister, so they're both older. And so she was always like, she was okay, but she was like always a little bit weird. And I never knew why. I thought, okay, just like that's her personality or whatever. But over time, it did seem like there was some schizophrenia or something like that, some whatever that is, or maybe I'm getting the terminology wrong, but like she would not perceive reality correctly, and in fact, to the point where like she would call the police department of the city that. So I grew up in Irvine, California, for people that a lot of people probably some people are familiar with that town. Yeah. But basically, like she would call the police department, telling them that she was being poisoned. And she did that so many times. And they like checked up on it, but like over time, they're like, okay, this person has like mental health issues, blah blah blah. And I mean, she was driving everybody nuts. Well, that sounds horrible, but like I briefly worked with her, and like 90% of the time would be fine. And then this one time, like I think I said something wrong, and I feel like you could like I felt like she was gonna pick up the scissors and like attack me. Like it was just like things. It was unpredictable, and it was incredibly difficult for the family because you love this person. This is your sister. You want to do the best for her. But if they're not sort of perceiving, if they have mental health issues, like it's a really difficult situation because like they might not want help. Like my friend's sister, she needed help, but she would not accept it because she was convinced that there was somebody trying to poison her. And like the whole situation was pretty tragic because in the end she did have some condition that needed to get addressed by a doctor that was making her, because she eventually passed away, unfortunately. If she went to the doctor and got checked out, they would have found it. But she felt something was wrong. She thought, I'm getting poisoned, so she didn't want to let anybody near her. Because I had that experience, because I lived through that, or not lived through, but you know what I mean? Like I witnessed that happen. So when Sam Altman's talking about what's happening with him, I guess I'm just like biased because I'm like, okay, I know what he's going through. But well, yeah, I mean, sorry, thank you so much. People are saying sorry for your loss. I mean, it was my friend's sister. I just kind of witnessed it happening. I was like, well, like it's just like a horrible thing to be in. So when I'm hearing Sam Altman's and his sister's story, that's what's popping into my head. Yeah. So Ruth is saying the truth is we don't know exactly, and KT saying you don't know. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I have no idea what's happening in Sam Altman's family. Neither does anybody else other than the people that are involved. For me, I'm just saying because what I'm saying is I am biased because of my own experience, if that makes sense. Whistleblower's mysterious death. So so yes, it is cognitive bias, but I am aware of it. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Is like I'm stating like my bias. I think that's better than being unaware of it, if that makes sense. So like I said, I don't know what actually happened. But the whistleblower, was there any follow up on that? So basically, OpenAI had a whistleblower, and then later he was found dead in his San Francisco apartment. And then there was a post on Twitter that Elon Musk actually kind of like replied to by somebody claiming to be the family of that whistleblower. So somebody that was basically like putting information, like leaking information, or saying that some bad stuff was happening behind the scenes at OpenAI. And they wanted to do a third-party independent just autopsy of the person of that kid, the OpenAI employee, to see what actually happened, because the San Francisco Police Department was saying no foul play suspected, but the family or the person claiming to be the family said that they thought otherwise. I'm sorry. Somebody's saying there was a hitman. Altman paid the SA. Tucker Carlson just did an interview. No, I had no idea. Are you kidding me? Is this real? Sam Hitman. Are you guys messing with me? Too many people are saying this is real, so I'm... I did not know any of this. So for those that see, so people are saying Tucker Carlson did an interview. Whoa. Okay, no, I did not know any of this. Hang on. It was live on X during the operator announcement. What? So, okay. So I would like to do a little bit more research on this, because operator system card, Pigeon, welcome back. Let me... No, I have not yet. Let me take a look at that. So wait, I see the Shamav Palihapitiya interview going on right now. What are you guys talking about? What interview? Well, okay, so people are saying like Tucker Carlson, not a factual reporter. So the thing is, it's not a, like, I wouldn't take anyone. I'd be very careful what anyone says. So, but if somebody's claiming something, you look at the evidence. You look at, you know what I mean? Like, it's if somebody's just like says something and there's like nothing backing it, then no, you don't believe it. But I mean, you always try to verify, go deeper on that. Um, okay, I'm gonna have to like go deeper on this because I don't know. I don't know too much about it. How to exit this matrix? There's a great little, I don't even know what to call it, story. I forget what it's called. Maybe some people know what I'm talking about, where there's this guy that's in the future and he's doing a lot of like research for neuroscience. He gives a presentation and this guy approaches him at the bar and he's like, you're living in a simulation and this is your last chance. Like, if you tell me you want out, we'll get you out. Was that called The Machine? I forget what it's called. And there's apparently a rabbit R1 hole. Something more is happening with the rabbit R1. Hey, I was told to get in here, but nothing seems to be happening. Well, we saw the initial sort of thing with the operator, and now, I mean, I'm just waiting for it to, go live for me, but it's not. So wait, so are people able to use the operator? Not just get to operator.chatgpt.com. So yeah, if some of you guys, if you can go, if you have the pro plan and you go to operator.chatgpt.com, can you, it's working now. So the actual, okay. Okay. And yes, I will look into the okay, so Sam Altman's sister lawsuit, and apparently the whistleblower. I will look more into this because I can't find any sort of right now any more information on it. But let's see. Okay, let me try this again. Early on, there was whenever OpenAI had releases, one thing I figured out is there was a way to, like, if they had a new model release, if you could guess what the little slug that they used for the URL, what they would call a new model, you'd be able to type it in and actually access before. So a few times, if I was able to guess what it would be, I posted on Twitter. So I feel like now, out of punishment, they're not letting me. I'm always the last to get my hands on any new model or new feature that they released. So somebody's saying I'm pro in US, don't have access. So people are saying they do have access. However, I'm not getting it. And where it's going to be is if you pull up the little sidebar, it's kind of where like Sora is usually, and where your custom GPTs are. It's all in there, but yep. No, still no luck. Yeah, so who was mentioning the mRNA? Was that DeepMind? That, or no, you're talking about the cancer treatments that, what's his name? The co-founder of Oracle was talking about, right? The blood test, the liquid biopsy for the to test to see if there's the cancers, and we're able to do a blood test for that, and I think he mentioned a mRNA vaccine or some sort of mRNA thing. Larry Ellison, thank you. Did Demi Sashabis mention anything about that also? I don't, so yeah, I don't have VPN or anything like that. There's more stuff on the Open AI channel. Well, I'll see if they go live again with anything. Oh, demonstrating operator. Is that what you're talking about? So demonstrating operator. So they're just publishing more stuff. Yeah, let's check it out actually. Why not? While we're waiting, we can check out what they're doing there.
Tell me your name and what you do at Openai.
Yes, my name is Hyunwoo No, and I'm a research lead of Operator in Openai.
And what is Operator?
Operator is a research preview of an agent that uses browsers to help users to do things. So I have a 3-year-old kid who likes pasta, so I make a linguine with clam, so I ask it to buy the groceries for it. So I will use the Instacart tab. And Operator can actually basically use any websites and it is not particularly optimized for Instacart. But the reason why using this app is that it provides a detailed instruction of how this website can be best utilized, just like the tutorial that human can benefit from. So I'll use Instacart tab and ask it to solve task. Could you find a recipe of linguine with clams from our recipes website and add all ingredients to the grocery cart of Instacart. I think I already have some ingredients like butter, vegetable oil, and waters, and black pepper. So you don't need to add them to the cart. So it says that I'll find a recipe and then add everything in the ingredients to the cart. And okay, it says that it'll confirm the ingredients and store with me before adding them to the cart. So let's start by finding the recipe. I'm not doing anything from now on. The operator is just doing, and I'm just watching what it's doing. What is interesting with the operator is that it is using browsers that are built for the human, and it is seeing the exactly same screen that I'm seeing right now, and using the keyboard typing and mouse clicking to control the browser, just like human would do. This is different from other agents that uses API or programming-based interface, which programmers might understand, but non-programmer users cannot understand really well. So Operator, because it is using this natural human interface, it's very easy to follow by just looking at what it's doing in the screen.
Can you follow its progress?
Yes. So one way to following its progress is I can zoom in to see the screen better. And Operator is powered by the text-based chain of thought reasoning. So whenever it is doing things, it says, it makes plans of how things can be done. And this can be followed through this list of the dots. And it says I found the recipe, and which store would you prefer to use? So I'll ask, use Gus's. So often it asks clarifying question whenever it is needed in the process of solving the task. There are cases that operator have to make sensitive actions like things like logging in or buying things. In this case, we built operator to be safe in this situation. So operator is designed to ask us to take control to log in by ourselves, or whenever it needed checking it, it gives us the control so that I can double check whether the list is correct and then checking it by myself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you showing it to us.
Thank you so much.
Testing. Okay, yeah. So basically, yeah, people earlier mentioned something about the OpenAI whistleblower, and apparently Tucker Carlson having an interview. So I'm just seeing Shamav Palihapitiya. So I'm not sure if that's the one that we're talking about or not, but Electric Sushi, I wonder if ByteDance Inc. UI TARS desktop influenced OpenAI's operator surprise release. Let me take a look at that. Yeah, so much stuff has been... Okay, so ByteDance looks like on GitHub released, I'm guessing this is open source, a GUI agent application using natural language. So is this blowing up? Interesting. Okay. The thing is, we've had a few of these. We had Open Computer. We've had, there's a number of these that have popped up here and there. So I guess it all depends on, like the benchmark, how well it is at doing the stuff. That's kind of why I wanted to test this particular thing, because they're saying it's kind of highly rated on those benchmarks that it's doing. But unfortunately, I am just not getting... Andrian is saying, rather than IQ, what you're saying is if you could opt for some attribute that wouldn't decrease ability but would increase potential. Yeah, I guess that's kind of like what I'm saying, because I mean, we don't know too much about how the brain works, and I think we're learning a lot more now. Interestingly, in part because of like the neural nets, the AIs, because I feel like as we're constructing it, we're learning more about how our own brains are constructed, so to speak. So I am kind of wondering, I mean, there's got to be some things that code for, in the DNA, in the genome, that code for intelligence. And I don't think it obviously works like, in Fallout, you just do like plus 1 to intelligence or whatever. It's not like an RPG game, but I'm sure there are things that sort of code for stuff, right? So for example, with things like ADHD and stuff like that, right? That's could be thought of as a dopamine misregulation, right? So dopamine affects our executive function, right? So they did like experiments on rats where, and I think they either changed their actual genome or somehow they basically blocked all dopamine in the brain. And what they were saying is the rats would not be able to move towards food, all right? So if you like put food in front of them, they wouldn't be able to move to get closer to it. They'd still eat it if you put it to where but it's like it falls so much into executive function and just doing stuff and being able to control what we do, right? So if you have like, I should go work out, you know you're supposed to do that. You know, whether or not you do it or whether or not you like go through the motions. If people that struggle with ADHD, sometimes there's like a disconnect between this is what they should be doing, this is what they are able to do. And I think a lot of people like misunderstand that, like, oh yeah, I get lazy too sometimes. And it's like, well, no, we all get lazy. Sometimes we don't do stuff, but there is something about dopamine that sort of helps us do the thing that we want to do, that we know we should be doing, and focusing and stuff like that. So if you have some sort of dysregulation or whatever, like your potential wouldn't be as good for completing tasks because you can't pay attention. Yeah, it's like a reward function, right? And there's like a million things like that. So what if we are able to just maybe make sure that, you know, like if you're having a kid, for example, and the doctor's like, okay, there's this simple procedure, and just kind of like, it just like erases anything that we know that could just limit their abilities. So we're not adding anything. We're just taking off some basic sort of like breaks that might be there naturally. Oh, Dread Pirate Roberts on Rogan when? Great question. I would not be shocked if it's you know, within like a few weeks. Yeah. So dopamine augments expectations of future reward. So dopamine aggregate at one time in from what I understand, some specific region is like what happens. But there's also, I think, kind of like the baseline dopamine availability that I think is more of an issue with ADHD and other stuff. So like dopamine, like, and I've been trying to learn about this, so, and I apologize if I don't have all my details correctly, but there's like specific things in specific regions that code for certain behaviors, and like it's kind of like a reward functions for doing certain things. But there's also like a just overall sort of like baseline dopamine level. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what sparked this conversation. I think somebody said, sorry, I'm a little bit slowing down here. It's been it's been a few hours. Uh, People with ADHD can get hyper focused on specific tasks. I don't know if it's necessarily a lack of reward function things. Yeah, I feel like it's like a balancing thing, right? You can get hyper focused, but you can also just have a harder time focusing on stuff that's not like super interesting. Like how some people say, it's like it's either a hell yes or it's just a no. Like you're either really all about it or it's like nope, can't do it. Um, Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the whole thing about ADHD and dopamine is that's really simplifying because how do you say that? Norepinephrine, um, and all of that stuff also has like a lot of stuff that kind of plays into that. And yeah, and I think that like talking about like I'm not going to mention the drugs that we're talking the ADHD medicines by name or whatever because I don't want to get into that. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people that have certain conditions that we don't fully understand and we're just beginning to like understand it more and more, whether that's ADHD, whether that's autism, whether that's like all these different things. Like I feel like back in the days, you go back a few decades, it's like you're either like normal or you're not. You either fit in or you don't. Now we're beginning to realize that's a little bit too simplistic, that there's different people that maybe are like more better suited for different tasks, etc. Today, a research paper got released. ADHD people live 49 years less due to depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. I believe it, because if you have ADHD, I mean, there's like the ADHD tax that you pay, basically, like late fees and like just all sorts of crap like that. People tend to self-medicate quite a bit. I feel like it's in part might have been like the hunter gene almost. Like in the past, I would think that like hunters needed that like newness, like they gotta go and like test different fields in different areas to try to find different stuff. So it's maybe not the hunter, but like the explorer. And if it's too, like while the entire tribe is doing their basket weaving and getting better at doing the same task over and over again, they're like, nope, like I did once, I'm done. I need to go like wander off and find something new. So I think it's part of like, I don't know, like evolutionary biology. Everybody's got their own like little role that they do in society. Oh, yeah, so that's a good point. So the problem with ADHD is that it's an executive function disorder. So people with ADHD have trouble choosing to do and not do things. Hyperfocus is when people with ADHD don't stop. Yeah. And there's also that idea that I've heard about, like the special interests, that where people kind of go deep on one subject. And I know that's one of the things that like tend to happen with me, where like something just like 1 week I would just be like, I'm interested in turtles, so now it's just all about that for like a few weeks, and I just like nothing but that. Like if I'm driving somewhere, I'm listening to a podcast about it, or I'm reading it on my phone about something. And yeah. And the thing is, yeah, so it's like one of those things where it's like everybody now, I feel like more and more people have ADHD, like sort of symptoms, right? Because of social media and just like the too much free and unearned dopamine floating around. And yeah, if you can turn your ADHD into a superpower, like GeoRust is saying, it can be a superpower for sure. Mark, yeah, I got diagnosed later on in life, which is interesting. So the person that's behind those custom GPTs, Grimoire. So what's his name? He's on X, Dobos, Nick Dobos. So somebody was saying, how is he like so productive? Because he's just been like launching tons of stuff. I think he used to be a coder for Apple, for the iPhone or something like that, for the App Store. And he was saying it's like how it's just like he had ADHD that was undiagnosed for most of his life. So he learned a lot of like coping mechanisms, and he got better, and then he got diagnosed, he got medicated. Now he's like, it's like I'm superhuman, because not only does he have that ability to do these super deep dives into stuff, he figured out how to deal with the negatives of it. And then, after all of that, you get medicated. Talk about the Devin scam. So when Devin came out, I got the subscription, and so many things have come out like directly after it, and it was like the holidays and stuff like that. This is so silly. I've never gotten around to testing it. I've never gotten around to installing it, because like it's you really got to take some time to like set it up properly. I know that a few people on YouTube and stuff did live streams where they tested it out. So it sounds like it's not great. Is that like it's just not good? So Peter's saying diagnosed and medicated 39, electrical engineer, education, data analytics engineer. Yeah, see, it's like it's interesting. So you're saying you got obviously like you got all of that before you got medicated, before you had that. So yeah, lion's mane. I've been looking quite a bit into that. That's a very interesting mushroom. And in fact, all of those like what are they called? Adaptogens. Yeah. Peter's saying I feel superhuman coding now. Yeah. Neurospicy. Yeah. So I think Dave Shapiro was the first one to start calling it neurospicy, as far as I can tell. I do prefer that, neurospicy. Lion's mane and all the various adaptogens are very interesting. I wish they would do a little bit more research into that, because it sounds like, yeah, that lion's mane mushroom has some pretty beneficial effects on the brain. And I feel like they're setting up more and more sort of production of these things. I know that in San Diego, there's actually a lab somewhere near the coast. It's like this building where they just grow a lot of these adaptogen mushrooms. So they got lion's mane. They have, what's the one that infects the little ants and like takes them over and controls their bodies? Because that one's supposed to be also very good for various athletic things. And it's actually being added to more and more like pre-workouts and stuff like that. Cordyceps, thank you. Yeah, ginkgo biloba is another one. Keto for ADHD. Yeah, so if you're running on ketones, that's really good. Well, it seems to be like there's a lot of positive benefits for the brain. I feel like, and I've tried that, I feel like there's some downsides with stuff like that. Because I've been on keto and I do feel better. I think on some people it does have some adrenal fatigue that develops from it for some reason. And also, you can have gut issues if you're not getting the right sort of stuff in there, because you're cutting out a lot of fiber and stuff like that. So I was a big sort of keto proponent. I since then developed some sort of like a few red flags for me, but I still think that it can be really, really good. And it's excellent for, if you're doing something like keto, intermittent fasting. In terms of just shedding fat off your body, like I don't think there's anything that comes close. At least for me, because if I do cardio cardio is good for the brain, for the heart. But for me, if I do cardio for weight loss, it's like, forget it. Like I'm ravenous. Like I will eat all of the bread and all of the cereal and just like everything. So to me, intermittent fasting with keto was great for weight loss, for brain function, stuff like that. But I do feel like it does do some weird builds up adrenaline fatigue or something like that. Anxiety and depression is caused by false beliefs. The first false belief is believing you are your physical body. Identifying yourself as a material body instead of an eternal soul is root cause. So that's interesting. There was a recent Tim Ferriss interview where he interviews a doctor that's all about happiness. And let me see if I can find the name of that episode for you guys. But Tim Ferriss, for people that maybe not aware, he had just a horrible thing happen to him when he was a toddler, when he was a baby. And I think that sort of like really created a lot of demons for him and created a lot of anxiety and insomnia. And he's lacking an ability to just be happy. And he's very sort of when he was talking to this person. Hang on, let me just look up what the guy's name is, so I can like make sure I get it right. So. Oh man, does anybody know the episode that I'm talking about? So it's a he's a doctor, he's Catholic, and he is into studying happiness, studying why people are happy, because he himself seems to be genetic. Oh, here we go. I found the guys. Well, I found a clip. Arthur C. Brooks. Okay, so for people that, I'll just post the title of the Tim Ferriss thing into here. That's the podcast that I'm talking about. So it's Tim Ferriss interviewing Arthur C. Brooks. And so Tim Ferriss is talking about like, how do I sort of have less anxiety? How do I have less depression? How do I do this? How do I do that? And so Dr. Joe Dispenza, I've heard a lot of people say great things about him. I did not, don't know too much about what he talks about, but I hear that name a lot. So, so the happiness doctor, happiness professor, so one of the things he was saying is like, what helps to get rid of depression, anxiety, all that stuff is prayer, kind of like believing in a higher authority. So he's breaking it down for Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is pushing back a little bit because Tim Ferriss, he's an atheist. So he's like, I need a more like secular approach. And so he's saying, well, the point why it works is you got to make yourself very, very small, right? So if you think of yourself as this like super important thing, like, oh yeah, I am like, it's about your ego, your existence, like everything that you think is important, etc. That can be bad if you're experiencing depression, anxiety, all that stuff. If you, on the other hand, are able to kind of like not disassociate, but almost like you make yourself feel very small. Those are his words. Yeah, like an ego death or some sort of a reduction of the ego. That can help with a lot of that stuff. And Tim Ferriss, interestingly, so somebody's saying like the mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, what is it, psilocybin, and stuff like that. So Tim Ferriss is funding, and like DMT and stuff like that. So Tim Ferriss has been funding a lot of the research in the United States into stuff like that, because I think that he's made a lot of money. That guy invested in some of the biggest startups in the Silicon Valley when that stuff was taking off. So he's in like Facebook and Uber and like Shopify. I think Shopify alone probably made him tens of millions because he was like instrumental in launching that. And I think he's using a lot of that sort of money because he doesn't say how much money he's making, but he did say that he was making something like $1 million per week or $1 million per episode of his new podcast. So that podcast that he has is just printing money, and he doesn't need any money because he's made a lot in his investments. And I think he's funding a lot of the research into that stuff. So post-traumatic stress disorder, various traumatic conditions and stuff like that. Because he's like, yeah, 4-hour work week. The guy works 24 hours a day, but no, but the 4-hour work week was like a split tested title. A lot of people give him crap for it, but like I'm getting the same right now because every time people are like, "Oh, shocking!" It's like, yeah, I test a bunch of titles. When I say something shocking, more people click on it. So so yeah, shocking is my version of the 4-hour this or that, 4-hour work week, 4-hour chef, 4-hour body, etc. But I guess that's interesting that he had a horrible experience to him when he was very young. He came out and talked about it maybe like a year ago or something like that. And so now, and I think that made him work like really, really hard. That made him push himself to the limits. I mean, the guy is like a machine. MDMA therapy, yes. So I think that more and more like Marines and people that are have experienced the post-traumatic stress disorder from their active duty and stuff like that. MDMA seems to there seems to be some positives there. And so, yeah, and the problem is there's so much of that stuff that's like either illegal or, you know, frowned upon or whatever. Like, so the fact that mushrooms are exceptional for gaining perspective. Yeah, something about whatever they do. It, like some people say, rewires the brain. I almost describe it as like it turns down the volume on all of the stuff that's like that we think of as important, but really is not. So most of the stuff that we're doing when we're running out there is we're like, you know, it's like time management and all of our social relations and like ego stuff and money and this. And it's like some of the stuff, it like turns down the volume on everything that you normally think about and you feel is important. And then you realize that there's like something else. So Milky Way Dev, have you ever tried any? When I was younger, just a handful of times, and that came with a pretty big breakthrough for me. I haven't done anything in quite a while, but you know, back in my college days, let's say that. And I feel like it turns down the volume, like just like everything that we think of as important. And then you realize that there's like almost like another sound that's there that you've never heard in your life. And you're like, what is that? You know, what is that thing that like I never pay attention to? And that was like the thing that was like really kind of a breakthrough for me, was that, so it gave me a very different perspective. And that's like the most important thing, is being present. And this is going to sound silly because it's so cliche at this point, it's been said so many times, but kind of to me, I think of it as like being in the depth of every moment, because we kind of like, when we go through life, we're like bouncing off the surface of, you know, our consciousness. When you're meditating, when you're really present, you go deeper into it. So somebody said, what the hell did I just come into? You came in at the wrong time. Like we just went down a rabbit hole, and we're talking about mushrooms. But yeah, so being in the moment, being in the depth of every moment, I think is like the thing that to me, and the thing is like when I say it because that's not like the thing that I retain from it isn't like that mantra or those words or whatever. It was more like a deeper, like a grokking of it. And I think that's what it gives you, because it's not just words. It's hard to convey certain things with just words. But when you feel it, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. And so somebody's saying, try them before you speculate. So are we talking about like psilocybin and stuff like that? I have, that's what I'm talking about. What other stuff are we? I'm not. No. That's. I'm speaking from experience on that. What's interesting though, if I'm sure some of you people follow, Dave Shapiro. So he actually went to, I guess, Oregon, I assume, where some of the stuff is legal now, or more legal, right? He had an experience. And recently, and he changed his approach. I think he wanted to get out of talking about AI. Seems like maybe he's coming back into it a little bit more now. So that's interesting. I wish he'd talk more about that, because that seemed like kind of a big thing. Like, what did he realize? should we train AI on shrooms? There is more and more things where they're talking about, what do they call it? Like mushroom computing. They don't use mushroom. They use, what's the fungal computing or something like that. And there was I'm pretty sure I mentioned it in one of my videos where they took like these little robots, like just like basically little RC cars, but the thing that would control them would be not the mushroom. I'm blanking on what the mushroom is, the like the fruit of it, but mycelium. Oh yes, thank you. Mycelium computing, and so they used mycelium, like the mycelium networks to control the robot. So basically, you can think of it as like having for a brain that they put in mushrooms, right? So kind of, yeah, mycelium. And mycelium is this freaking fascinating thing. It's insane how weird that thing is for so many different reasons. Number one, it seems like they do have a language of some sort. They have words and sentences, and they have been trying to get some neural nets to try to understand what's being said. Not everybody thinks those are words, but it's just certain sequential patterns, certain bursts of little electricity that gets that they used to. It seems like they're using it to communicate. Some people believe that the psychedelic mushrooms had some role within the evolution of of humans, right? Some little breakthrough with tool making or whatever. I don't know how much research or science is behind that. Tons of people are microdosing, in the Silicon Valley and everywhere else. Steve Jobs famously said that like Bill Gates would be a much better person if he like dropped acid, every once in a while. Yeah. So a lot of people, if you ask them, what's the largest sort of organism on Earth, right? I mean, people would probably say, like a whale or whatever. But I think the largest thing that can be considered one sort of organism is a mycelium network that's like, I think it's under Colorado or something like that. It's like the size of a state. Fungi. So it's some like insane cluster of that stuff. And the fact that they kind of like control forests in a sense that they're able to change where stuff grows, where it doesn't. Like those networks that run underneath forests can like to a big degree like control how stuff works over like hundreds of years. So I'm so annoyed that I still don't have operator. Why? This is beyond frustrating. I have Pro. Let me verify that I have the Pro account, but I signed up. Anyways, I think that I will be. They're conscious. Somebody's AI Amplify. Today, a study came out about self-awareness in AI models and large language models. I haven't read it yet, so I don't know. I don't know what somebody's saying. Tardigrade mycelial network. That's just a cool concept. But yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, so self-aware behavior is not consciousness. I agree. Like, what is even consciousness? Like, how do you define it? Sabine Hassenfelder did like a little interview where she's like, zombies are not real. Or she had a great title for it. But the point was, she was saying how they believe. So GRS is saying subjective experience, but how do you know, like, if like a large language model is like tripping and it's like, yeah, dude, I'm seeing this and seeing that, or even with like robots and their ability to perceive stuff, if you change something, this is what Jeffrey Hinton was like. He was talking about how like robots can have subjective experiences. And obviously the guy's brilliant and he's the father of AI, and he kind of called neural nets being the thing to progress AI. But when he's saying that like robots can have subjective experiences, like I'm not saying he's wrong, because he's obviously knows a lot more than I do. He's a genius, all this stuff. But how, like, I don't get it. Like, I'm not able to sort of understand. Would you call? I resent being called a robot. It's hard for me to accept that right now there exists consciousness in some of this stuff. So, but here's why. So Sabine Hossenfeller did a study saying like, what is consciousness? And one of the studies that she was talking about is like, if you think about ChatGPT and stuff like that, what are they doing? They're trying to predict the next word. So all of them are sort of these little prediction machines. If you say, to DALL-E or Midjourney or whatever, like, draw me a picture of a cat, it tries to predict what that would look like. And that's why we call it inference. It's sort of like guesses or predictions or whatever. So we have these things that predict the output that you're asking for. What is consciousness? In her video, which she was kind of alluding to, if I recall correctly, she was saying eventually for intelligence life to exist, it not only has to like predict what's going to be happening, but it also has to almost like be able to predict its own behavior, if that makes sense. So, and because it's predicting its own behavior, that sort of self-awareness of itself, that's what consciousness is. I mean, she explained it better than I did. I hope I kind of captured. We love Sabine. Yeah, she's great. But I hope I kind of captured the point that she was making there. I'm sure I got some, I simplified quite a bit. Yeah, so like self-reflection, the self-prediction is what leads to consciousness. But the thing is, like, if these large language models, it's like you can run this test and you can say, take this message and encode it in such a way that you are then later able to decode it. And it does something like that. And in this new paper that's coming out, I think that we're going to be, they kind of go a little bit deeper into that. But the point is, it's like, it's so weird because it's so hard to define, because there's a lot of stuff that's like what if we are somewhat having something that we call a consciousness, and maybe it is like a spectrum, right? So maybe like over time it'll be more, but it's like how do you even tell? How do you even test for that? With animals, when they were trying to figure out which animals have what they refer to as like self-awareness, like the test was they would put paint on their face, right? And then they would show them a mirror, right? So like a monkey will look in a mirror, see paint on its face, and like interact with it, go, oh, like, what is this stuff on my face? Whereas some other animals would not sort of perceive that or react to it. So we defined self-perception as that, some sort of a reaction to seeing paint on your face in a mirror. We at least had a way to test for it. We defined what it meant. We ran a test. How do you test for Geo Russ is saying ants passed the mirror test? I did not know that. No, is that true? that would be interesting. I mean, I'm sure they react to feeling stuff, but is it because they're like they look and they visually see it? Anyways, they tried the mirror test on Amica. That's that talking a robot. The mirror test is not accurate. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, what I'm saying is if for a lot of the stuff, because we need to be able to test stuff. In order to test stuff, we need to be able to like define that test. So my point about the mirror test was, at the very least, they defined it. Like, if the thing reacted to this, then we call it self-awareness. If it doesn't, then we don't. And we can argue with the premise. We can say, well, you know, we can argue with the premise, but the point is, at least they have a test that's well defined. I don't think we have anything like that for consciousness. Like, what's a test for consciousness? You know what I mean? We don't even have a great definition for it, I feel like. Koalas have no morals. I've heard somewhere like all koalas, they have like STDs or something like that. Like, for some reason, like they have like they're all high rate of STDs or something like that. Anyways. Yeah, chlamydia, I think, is like, yeah, they all have like high rates of chlamydia or something like that. I don't know why that came to mind just then. Yeah, and that's the big question. Like, can non-biological stuff have consciousness? Like, I don't even know. But again, we need like some sort of a test for it, some sort of a definition. Right now, I feel like it might be that consciousness, you can only perceive it in yourself. Like, we can't even tell if somebody else is conscious, if you think about it truly. Cuddly chlamydia bears, exactly. Live ChatGPT session. Let me test it one more time to see what's happening here. Yeah, I mean, I have ChatGPT Pro, and but no operator. Anyways, I'm gonna go. I need sustenance. I need food. But it's been a huge joy talking to all of you. Half the time when I'm watching a live stream, when we watching like an Openai live stream, like the jokes I see, like they just crack me up, and I feel like I'm just sitting there like laughing at the jokes during the Openai live streams. So yeah, I do appreciate that. It's highly entertaining. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed everything. It's been great. As soon as I get the operator, I'll put a video. Yes, if you send me an email, I'll try to check it out. I'll check it out today for sure. You guys are very awesome. Thank you so much. And operator still not working. I'll talk to all of you soon. I'll try to do live streams at least once a week. Thank you so much for being here, and talk soon. Take care.